order. Kelly, if you'll take roll call.
Peter Boyer,
Present.
Stephen Clark, council.
Present.
Tyler Martin, excused. Tim Ficken, council.
Present.
Dan Sabrowski, council.
Everyone rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I entertain a motion to approve the minutes of June 17th, 2025.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Callie, did we get those changes made that I emailed you about? Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Entertain a motion to approve the payables list for July 1st, 2025.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I entertain a motion to approve the payables list for June 2025 as noted in the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'd entertain a motion to approve resolution number 2025-13, a resolution publishing current salaries and wages.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I entertain a motion to approve resolution number 2025-14, a resolution establishing an increase in water and sewer and sanitation rates to meet the fiscal obligations of this enterprise and reflecting an increase in rates by system suppliers.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Ordinance, I would entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2025-02, amendment of the annual appropriation ordinance budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025.
First reading, sorry.
Yes, first reading.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, Mr. Holscher.
Mayor and council, you have my report. I don't think I have anything to add. If there's any questions, I'll attempt to answer them.
Does anyone have any questions for Pat?
It was
I have a
riveting.
question for you, Pat, but yeah, I forgot it. The bridle trail has come up again for the however many times now.
He said something about dogs lying though.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I see that the person who asked me to put them on or to meet with me is not here. So I guess we will let that lie, but there's not really anything we can do.
Well, there's land in it. The problem is because of the way the plat and dedication reads, it's not really clear whether it's dedicated to the town presently or not, or to the general public. Wouldn't say there's nothing that can be done, but anything that could be done would require some sort of legal action to even determine what the status is. And that would involve a inordinately large number of people. So I wouldn't suggest attempting it.
Agreed.
Let me ask a question, because I was involved in that a few years back, platting it, and it came up then during the platting process. It's a 40-foot wide easement that used to be part of a continuous trail that surrounded the entire town, but now it's broken up in segments, so it's not continuous anymore.
Maybe.
So
There's no legal ability to just wipe it out by fiat. So
could you put the burden of the cost and that legwork on a future developer and let them run with it with our blessing? But
well, they don't really need the municipality's blessing or not. And actually, every time that's come up from a developer, I've always indicated that they have the ability to take it on. But they have the same situation that the town would, that because of the way the dedication reads, it's so broad, they'd pretty much have to file suit against every single piece of property in town. And they probably don't want to do that, even though they seem to be happy to suggest that maybe the town ought to. And if they want to do that, they can, to get a declaratory judgment as to what its status is.
So I would assume it would look like if if a developer in the future decided to do that, I don't know that we would, the owner, everybody out, I don't know, would there be a consensus to fight that?
I don't know either. And that would have to be determined at the time. And, you know, some people might not. But because of the way the dedication, that the technicality on it is this, is that 1958 Natrona County dedication references it and plats it out. And then, but the way that it's done is fairly common for a lot of early dedications where it's not really clear whether it was dedicated and accepted as essentially a park, or whether it's a dedication to the public at large. You'll notice in the original dedication, it talks about a committee.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of things in Natrona County that are this old, that are this kind of way. Usually it's streets, and usually the county takes the position that, well, they're a public dedication, but the county didn't accept them, and therefore they're not a county road. This is really no different. There is actually, for what it's worth, some parkland west of town that was dedicated. It has the exact same sort of dedication, and the county accepted the subdivisions but didn't accept the parks. And so the question exists if they're to everybody or what. And it requires some sort of judicial declaration to clear it up.
So here's the complication that I can see happening in the future, because like I'd mentioned earlier, but the most known map that's filed down there is that you're copying here, that shows that continuous trail all around,
Yeah,
but it's been arbitrarily disrupted.
it sure has.
So could it be forced back in?
Potentially.
There's some roads and stuff that have disrupted that.
And, you have your engineer here who usually gets involved in these conversations as well. Replats might have had the effect of wiping it out. If it's a dedication to the public at large, a long time contrary use, if it's to the public at large, might have an adverse possession impact on it. But you can't adversely possess against the government. So if it's a dedication that was accepted by Natrona County and is now owned by the town, it has no effect. I mean, I don't think the town wants it. At least I've never heard that, but I don't know the contrary either.
We don't want it.
But then you'd have the burden to maintain it and all that goes along with it. I mean, it's pretty big,
I have a question, Pat. This is completely hypothetical, but let's just say that maybe somebody just didn't care and ignored it. What would happen? They just built any.
That's exactly what we're doing right now. Well, that's what the town's pretty much doing.
In all the other areas where it's,
I'm talking about like a private developer. Like they just came in and they were like,
this is what.
I didn't know,
Well,
maybe or something like
so
that.
that's actually come up before the Wyoming Supreme Court before on a publicly dedicated easement, where somebody with an extremely expensive house built a deck over a public easement like this. And it ended up in a lawsuit, and the Wyoming Supreme Court said, yep, you sure did, rip it down.
Well, and the other thing that
So-
would happen is it would get disclosed during title search. And then the buyer would have to go, do I want to give up 40 feet of my backyard on a, they're not guaranteed, nothing's going to happen.
Right.
So it would come up in the title.
It should. And it probably is, because we get asked this question literally every year.
Well, it's something we need to figure out because it's keeping us from moving west.
It is, and so the other thing is the legislature, there is a process to vacate a public thoroughfare, which, usually you think of as a right of way. But the legislature now requires that everybody who's within 300 feet of it has to participate in the action to the tune of 75% of the property owners. So there's really no easy way to do this. There used to be an easier way.
There's only about 5 trailer houses within 300 feet of that.
Well, because it goes around the entire town, though. That's
Oh, you're talking about so if you did one section, you do the whole town.
well, it depends on how you did it. I mean, if you propose to vacate a narrow section of it, and we conceive of it as a right of way, which is pretty iffy. Because it's not dedicated as a right of way.
Right.
But if you could stretch it and say it was a right of way, then it would have to be within 300 feet of everybody there, maybe. But then the thing is, because it's dedicated to the public at large, you're back to everybody in town. So yeah, I mean, originally it's like a lot of old plats. Is that when the plat was developed, that was going to be the size of the development, period. It was never going to be any bigger. And so that's the legacy you're left with. I mean, I guess the other thing you could try is a monster replat the
whole community.
Mm-hmm. And then what you would, yeah.
That blinks a lot.
Yeah. I mean, any way you do it is really a headache.
Yeah, let's sound like it.
Yeah. Let's replat the whole town, right?
Sounds great. It's just pull out that money machine.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
Be gone.
Well,
Be gone first.
the easiest solution would be is that the people who propose redeveloping it would take it on at their expense.
Yeah.
Because they always kind of approach us and want us to do it.
Then I would assume that, a mediator would be involved before it ever went to trial. And then the parties involved, I guess we'd have to send out a letter to all property owners.
It would never get to trial because it's a question of law. And so what would happen is it would be briefed and a court would decide it on summary judgment. There'd never be a trial.
Okay.
So the question would be,
But then who do you name? Who would the developer name? The town and its citizens?
so if you were to do it safely, you would do it 2 ways. Your primary complaint would be, well, this is a dedicated, well, you have to say, I need to know if this is a dedicated park or if it's a dedication to the public at large and whether it still exists. And in order to do that, you have to sue every single property owner in town as well as the town itself. Now, if the town doesn't care, town just doesn't answer the complaint.
And
a lot of people wouldn't answer the complaint either, but some people would because they would have an interest.
But then they'd have to write a check to get an attorney involved themselves.
Right.
Over.
Yeah.
But then it still doesn't go away from the town. If the developer of that particular, they're just gonna go with that section.
Well,
We keep running into this.
Well, the thing is, it can't be determined that way because if it's a right of the towns, if it's a dedicated park, you can't decide it as to, 25 feet or something. If it's dedicated to everybody in town, it has to be decided as to the entire bridle path.
And is any of this bridle path actually being used in that regard? Is there part of any of our parks or anything?
I doubt it.
It's hard to tell what,
It almost looked like the part along McMurray is part of the walking path, maybe. Like there's a very, very,
would it change that?
Well, Ray, do you know if any of it's being used?
Alleyways. I think that's probably the biggest. Can't open it right now.
Yeah, Palomino and Antelope.
Right, Palomino, Antelope.
If that was then done away with, so is the alley no longer an easement or could it flip?
Probably have
Easement
to assign it. You'd have to get the easement changed.
through an ordinance or through a resolution or?
Through a revision of the plat. That's the only way to do it.
Can the town file its own plat?
Well, the town can seek to address its plat. I mean, it's a public process and all of that.
We hate to lose our alleyways.
Oh, gee, yeah. No, you don't want to do that.
utilities.
Yeah, you have utility.
We got sewers in there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So yeah, so is it a sewer easement or is it a bridle trail public that we put a sewer in?
Probably that. It's not inconsistent with its use.
There's some far-fetched ramifications there.
How do we find out what exactly it is?
Declaratory judgment action.
Which is where we started at.
Yeah. Which would be the burden, really should be the burden of whoever wants to develop land.
I mean, the municipality could take it on, but that is the town of Bar None versus everybody in Bar None, which doesn't sound like something that'd be appealing.
No, it'd just be
Yeah.
nice to have more like to know exactly what it is so we can make a decision, but
Town sues everyone in the town.
1958. Every property owner.
I mean, we might make national headlines.
they expected a lot of horses out.
Gotta do that. Do that in the lame duck year.
Yeah, the town was platted actually as a horse community.
The riding arena and everything, and since then, there's a lot built on top of where that should have been.
Oh, the original
Town hall, actually.
that is completely inconsistent with the modern. And it wasn't platted as a town, it was platted as a horse-centric rural subdivision.
So if the town got together and forced the issue, we'd have to keep horses in here
I'm cool with that.
in the gym.
The town pay for the horse?
So that's why
I can't afford a horse on my house.
leaving it alone for now.
Let me install a hitching post.
On a Frisian. Frisian,
Wow,
big war horse,
that'd be cool.
right? Hey, you're gonna go big, go big or go home, right? Okay, well, does it cover,
Definitely covers it.
There you go. Or
good question.
back to the
And
stand.
horse, yeah.
It's the same every
We'll
year.
we'll hear about it again next year.
Yeah.
Awesome. Ray, regale us,
Say that again.
regale us.
Let me regale you with stories. Antelope Park is complete. I think
Yay.
Thursday afternoon, so quite a few people are using it. Saw about a dozen kids out there on my way in this evening. So that's good news. We did have a 201 Management Oversight Committee meeting last Friday. I sent the results of that meeting to Callie on Friday, and it's basically a $80,000 increase to the town. Well, sort of. Let me get there. This is the first fiscal year, I believe, that they have Bar None and Wardwell combined. So I'm doing some quick math here. We're at 250, so it's a $28,000 increase year over year. And that's across the board. The total budget for the 201 increased from 7.9 million to 8.4 million. So it's about $500,000 increase. And that's Bar None's portion. And that's kind of standard right now. A lot of, they've actually decreased, I should put this, they increased their revenue by renegotiating their loans. They cut their interest rates from 2.5% down to 1%. So they've been doing a lot of things to save money, but there's a lot of work to be done with the wastewater treatment plant and the 201. And so
Right.
they're starting to go down that road of capital improvements.
Yeah, say, because I know that I know they've been falling behind for a while.
Yeah.
And I was wondering when this was gonna hit us.
Sounds like Casper City Council finally took a tour of the place recently.
Yes.
Woke some people up.
Yeah. It's like walking through the 60s. So, yes. It's very
It's
interesting.
not a memory or a trip down memory lane you want to.
If you ever have a chance to go make a tour, it's very, it's impressive what they do there.
Interesting.
To hold it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really all I have for you.
Cool. Well, I appreciate it, Ray. Any questions for Ray?
I got one. The turf that we put on over there, do we know what the longevity of that is? Like what the wear patterns are gonna be on it, what to expect for like the lifespan of it?
I just talked with the installer up last week about it, and he said your worst case scenario is a 10-year lifespan on the turf itself. He says on parks like this where it's not a soccer field, it's not a sports field where people are making hard movements and things like that. It's mostly little kids. He said you should get more time out of it. He said significantly more time. He wouldn't put a number to it, of course, but he said that I think the warranty is a 10-year warranty on it.
Cool.
So he said
So we need the kids to really hammer down on it in that last year.
Yes.
So we get a replacement.
yes,
Got it.
the fall material underneath should last multiple turf replacements.
Okay.
And that's the most expensive part is the fall material. So the turf replacement is fairly easy and inexpensive compared to the overall project costs. But yeah, it should be low maintenance from now until then, as opposed to the poured in place rubber that as soon as a piece came up, it,
So yeah, even 10 years is gonna get us longer than what we're getting out of the other.
right.
Well, it's gonna help the splash pad too.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah.
One of the questions, I'm glad you reminded me of this. One of the questions I had is how does it do for dirt collection? Because, obviously we get tons of wind here. Does it something you need to go spray it off with a hose occasionally? Or, I mean, I'm kind of illiterate on the subject. It looks good, feels great on the feet.
Yeah, you should not have, you will have some buildup. I mean, there's sand, they use sand as ballast on top to keep it down. And so really that's just what more sand in until it got to a point where the sand was greater than the blades of grass. You really shouldn't notice it, but you can get the sand out of there. And what they did is they brushed the sand in and then they blew the excess off with a leaf blower.
Just
So-
nice and vacuum.
Yeah.
$1,000. Right on.
So, I mean, it really should be pretty low maintenance for Dustin and his crew
Awesome.
for years to come.
Oh, I was down there on Saturday and the kids use it completely different than they used to.
Mhm.
Like it's played on like grass rather than a playground. It's really cool. I want to do that everywhere.
The kids were moving back and forth between the splash pad and the playground equipment. And just like it was part of the circuit.
Combined.
So, yeah,
Thank you, Ray.
yes, sir.
Anything else for Ray? All right. You were off the hook, sir. Dustin.
Mr. Mayor, Council, have my report. I don't have anything to add at this point, so I'll answer questions if you have any.
Fire hydrant flush. How's that going?
Moving along, so I have Justin kind of heading that up, but he's on the department. I don't know off the top of my head exactly where he is. He's going through the whole list of,
Oh, he's not here. You kind of look like with your hat on.
he's not here tonight.
Apologies.
But he did a lot of hydrant flushing this last week. So we're kind of doing it to fill in time when we're not doing other work orders or other tasks.
Awesome.
So we're on track to get them all flushed by the end of this summer.
Right on. I talked to you about maybe coordinating with Sonny and
And I did, right? We talked.
okay, and that's not necessary right now.
Sir,
No, they went out, I think, one day with Justin on a weekend and did some flushing and some actual pressure testing and stuff, flow rates and stuff for those hydrants. And I think they started up on Zuni.
Yeah, we did all of Zoom that day.
Fantastic. Right on. And AC in the gym is still not working.
yeah, the last I checked, they have not come, Air Innovations. So Casper Electric has their part done. They've wired in the high voltage. We're waiting on Air Innovations and Long Controls to come out and charge the Freon and program and connect the new AC into the network controller there upstairs. So that's, and the last, I called them just to get an update. I talked to the Air Innovations customer service rep and she told me, that's what she told me. Well, we've reached out to Long and we're trying to coordinate a time when we can both come out there. And so I kind of impressed upon her. I said, well, we'd kind of like to get it done sooner rather than later.
It's getting hot, real hot.
Sometime in October, it'll be
Yeah, we've had several
But
people.
that was the last one.
Is there a way we can kind of cattle prod them on?
working in.
He will.
You will? Okay.
think-
I can annoy the crap out of people. That's fine.
I reached out to him last week and got the same answer
Yeah,
and
she-
we'll just reach out to him again.
Yeah, get up residents start calling too. Maybe we'll give it, hey, that's what we'll do. We'll put their number out on Facebook and just say, hey, give these people a call so we can get AC in the gym.
It's toasty.
Right on. Any questions for Dustin? All right, Dustin, you are off the hook. Mr. Zahara, you are up.
Mayor and Council, you have my written report, and I would just got one thing to add and a couple of requests for you gentlemen, if you would consider them. Not make a decision on them tonight, but consider them for me. We surplus 4 pieces of apparatus via auction for municipal bid. That's in my written report, but the final sales were a total of $55,200 back to the department for those pieces of apparatus. Callie is making all the arrangements as far as payment goes for those and invoicing and getting everybody invoiced out. I would like to make a request that the money from those apparatus sales go back into earmarked funds for apparatus replacement in the future.
Done.
No problem.
Awesome.
And then the only other thing I have for you is Drew Gibson and I went down to the State Land and Investment Board meeting. We were able to secure $333,000, $853 for that new engine.
Much?
$333,853. So I would like to make a request, since that funds were already allocated for that. I'd like $100,000 for earmark funds for apparatus replacement of that money, and then $100,000 on PPE.
We do that?
So this, as long as it's consistent with how that grant works.
Yeah.
Well, this is, we're getting the grant money for the engine. This is money that you guys already allocated out of capital.
So you want to,
If we didn't get the grant.
So to reallocate the money that we budgeted for.
Yeah, so 100,000 for
Oh.
PPE, 100,000 for future apparatus, and then 133,000 back to your guys' capital.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
yeah, that'll be fine because we're just reallocating town money.
We have to redo the budget on that.
So you should amend the budget.
Sorry.
Thanks.
No, great job getting that grant secured.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Next time, let's do that in June. I'm just messing with you, man. I'm just messing with you.
You guys didn't have any council meetings in June after I went down there.
I'm just messing with you.
Great job.
Good job, though.
Yeah. Yep. Excellent.
And other than that, if you guys have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
I do not have any right now. Does anyone have any?
No, sad to see that big truck go though.
We still got,
We'll
we kept one.
talk about it. Big 6x6 that you see cruising around in the winter.
It went to another fire department in Wyoming though, so that's a good thing.
Cool.
As long as it's out of town, I don't see it.
I'm gonna jump back to Dustin. Dustin, did you want to discuss that vac truck?
Well, I guess I just needed the green light from you and the council, if I can go ahead and submit that order, or if we should hold off. The vac truck is, it's a multi-purpose truck. Be used to vac out the sewer system. Be used for any type of,
Does it have a jigger on it?
What's that?
Does it have a jetter too? Or
Yes, yeah, it's a combination sewer jetter and back truck. Kind of like the T-Rex or a Badger truck with a big sewer jetter on front.
The EPA stuff.
So
Waiting for the EPA. The EPA stuff's on hold right now.
This is to help.
right,
Well, that-
it looks like a lead service line. I mean, I don't know if Pat has any update on that.
No, we don't have
But
any.
I don't think the EPA, but yeah, it doesn't look like the EPA is going to defend their rule.
So we don't need it for the EPA stuff. We can use it for other stuff. The other side of that is that it's, $600,000.
$100,000 truck.
They ran the numbers for it. I remember it wasn't. I mean, because we spend 30,000 a year to hire somebody.
Right, but we subcontract out the jetting of our sewers now, and it, depending on he charges by the length. So every year it's a little different,
Right.
between 30 to 40,000 per year.
is that just bar none or is that with Wardwell?
That's a combination, Barnett and Wardwell, I believe.
It's not those numbers.
And now it's all ours. So, I mean, it'd probably be more accurate to say 40,000 a year is a good
Yeah.
estimate. And then we've broken up the entire system into 5 years. So every year he does 1/5. 40,000 is 1/5 of the entire sewer system.
So if we're not going down the EPA grant route, do we have the choice to search for a newer used? We don't need a brand new one, maybe. To justify the 30 to 40,000 a year.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm thinking right now we'll hold off on it. So let's do some more research. Let's roll with Dan's idea on that. Let's see what we can do. Kind of shop around, see if we can find a used one. Maybe that's in decent condition. I know that's
One that runs.
one that runs, right? And let's maybe start looking at if we're gonna do that, let's maybe allocate it over time or see if we can get a grant for it, something along those lines. So let's do some more
Okay.
looking into it.
I think it's a good investment to make, just a big one. But it'd be nice to be self-sufficient with our equipment in town. Especially with us having to maintain the water and sewer ourselves now. It would be good to not contract that out as much as possible, because if something happens and we need a vac truck and T-Rex, one of these companies, can't get out quickly, it makes it.
So what are you doing now? If somebody calls and says, and you're trying to determine a leak, especially on a core at the meter, at the valve, are you digging them mechanically? Or to
Well,
see which side the leak's on, or?
Well, what we've done over the last couple of years, we haven't had anything like that since I've been in this position. But what we've done is typically we'll hire like ISCO or another contractor or a T-Rex truck. If we can get them to come out, and they'll come out and pothole it down. That's what we've done on the other leaks that we've had. And we have had some where service line leaks at the corp or near it, or the service line, sprung a leak. And so, yeah,
Will T-Rex come out after hours?
well, it depends on their availability. I mean, they will, if they have a guy available, they will. I don't know if they're 24/7. I haven't asked them. I don't know if they're,
We've had them come out late at night,
okay.
or,
So maybe they have a crew on call.
yeah, I think they have an
You
emergency.
ever used Badger?
I don't think we've used Badger here
I've used both of them.
in town, but
They both work great with
and
me.
I think we just had, because when the first time we had, and again, I wasn't in a position. Badger wasn't available, T-Rex was, and they were great. They have great service. The guys were real friendly and helpful, so I think we just stuck with them. Needed them in after that. But yeah, I don't think we've used Badger, but they are available, I guess, if we needed them.
All right, yeah, let's see if we can
Okay,
bring the price down a little bit, see if we can get some grants. And if not, then we'll start looking at the route of reallocating some of the budget and maybe not immediately, but over the next few years, we'll put some money away for it. Sound good?
okay.
All right, cool. Callie, read your report. I did actually have a question for you.
Okay.
But I gotta go back to the report to remember it. And
It's on.
there it is. I found it. So you were saying there's a discussion at the state level about reducing the response time for the public records requests, like FOIAs.
30 days, 2 weeks.
Why?
Don't know, but with all of the mass record requests from online entities, it's going to be a massive, massive burden.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've already had one FOIA request for the Radiant stuff. From a resident. And I've gotten multiple emails, so I know you've gotten multiple emails from just these basically bot companies that are sending out mass FOIAs. And I don't think people realize how, like, I'm not against FOIAs. I mean, obviously I've got nothing to hide, but like FOIAs are a labor intensive process. Like you've got to stop everything you're doing. You've got to send emails, texts, everything you can think of, everything you can find and dig up to send it all in. And it stops basically the whole mechanism of government.
Frustrating is these online companies are submitting these FOIAs, taking the information and then turning around and selling it.
Nice.
Who's discussing
Even-
legislators, or is there a department that's discussing that?
I did.
It's set by statute, so it can't be changed without a change.
We got a way, they're not gonna deal with it during budget session.
But it came up at our Region 4 meeting.
Cool. Thanks. Any questions for Callie?
I think it was busy.
No? Right on. Thanks, Callie. All right. Petitions and public comment. I would just remind everyone, 5 minutes for comments. And it is now open to the public to comment.
Yeah, Nicholas Barnum. Mayor, council, can anyone on council tell me who Jesse Defoe is?
Sounds familiar.
She's, who does she work for? She's, I don't remember which, I think, is it Visit Casper? I think it's
Defoe is actually a consultant for Defoe Strategies.
oh, there you go.
And she was hired by Radiant because she specializes in organizational strategy, implementation of operational plans, and her main focus is on governmental affairs work, where she crafts thoughtful policy solutions for Wyomingers. She's the blind gal that has been to all Radiant's town halls. And did I mention she's a registered lobbyist? I'd like to remind all of us here that Matt Wilson addressed residents on numerous occasions at town halls, promised transparency, and when it comes to Jesse Defoe, there was none. Representative Almond also expressed significant concerns regarding transparency, legality, and implications of Radiant Industries project, and as far back as April 15th. And here we are with information that Radiant did not disclose who Jesse Defoe is. So unfortunately, our own mayor and council never inquired. Nor did any of us residents. I'll put that out there. So I feel as though we were duped. The lack of transparency from Radiant presenting their paid advocate as a local lady, a Cheyenne native, ranch family gal, is nothing more than community-based marketing to win our trust. Worse yet, our mayor gifted them the use of our community room free of charge and gave them a pass to knock on our doors and influence us with an insider game advantage. A lobbyist should present herself with integrity, which includes transparency, and this isn't what we got. I ask you, who is looking out for the people in Bar None? Jesse Defoe and Radiant went door to door selling an untested microreactor project and gave suspect assurances of safety. This is all on record, all of the promises that there would be ultimate transparency. In addition, Matt Wilson said that we would not see high volume storage, but at the meeting here on June 14th, he said the dry casks will be opened several times and more spent fuel added. On a final note, I'd like to point out that in our own town minutes, April 15th, Councilman Ficken opposed the location of the Merriweather Meats Processing Facility due to concerns of increased odor, truck traffic, and the location being too near to homes. So it just kind of goes without saying that there's some hypocrisy there when we're talking about Radiant Nuclear proposing to come here and building a facility with spent nuclear fuel storage being considered, in some cases, 100 yards from homes. Thank you.
Just for clarification, they weren't soliciting. They went and did that on their own, and they're allowed to do that. Just like as if someone came and knocked on your door and they wanted to talk to you about the color of your lawn or something.
Right.
So they are allowed to do that. So that was not me permitting them. That is, this town isn't we're not barricaded off from the rest of the world. Just to clarify that. Yeah.
The Stop Radiant group could go door to door,
Correct.
voice.
Yeah,
their
so
opinions.
that's part of living in a free society. So the implication that I allowed that or even promoted that is completely false. They did that on their own. That was them. So not that I'm for or against Radiant. I just want some clarity there, because the implication that I or myself or this council is trying to do something untoward, I feel like there's a witch hunt going on here against people that are just trying to work their way through this like everyone else. And I don't think that's fair. I really don't think that's fair. Because if you were sitting in my seat, would you be doing things a lot different? You don't know. And I'm not trying to bash on you or anyone else. You are allowed your opinion, and I welcome it. But
Can I rent
but the
free room in this building?
but
Can I get a free room in this building?
If it's for public information and you're providing info to the public, and you're not renting it for a birthday party, sure.
So I can bring Stop Radiant up here and we
Yes,
can have
sure.
a big rally.
yes, because we've it's not just Stop Radiant or not Radiant that we've had in here. We've also had what's that group?
The police department,
The police department. We've had the Natrona County Patriots, and so you.
An out-of-state group can come here and use a community
The
building.
reason we were doing that is so that people could get information from them.
Okay, I just.
That was the purpose behind it, is so that we could disseminate information to the people. There was nothing untoward about it, and it wasn't about money. It was, we were literally just trying to do a good thing. And that's the part that, as the mayor, as this council, we get frustrated about, because we're trying to do the right thing and we're getting kicked in the face by our own people.
So you feel that my comments are kicking you in the face?
I feel like when you say that they're getting a rent with the inclination of your voice and the things you're saying, that when you are saying that we let them rent it for free, well, we would have let Stop Radiant rent it for free. We've let multiple agencies and rent it for free. Because I just trying to get information.
it was a
And the idea that I allowed them or promoted them going door to door, they did that because they have the free will and capability of doing that. I didn't even know about it until they told me. And so the implication that I'm trying to hide or do something untoward, it's offensive.
I think you took it personally. I didn't imply that.
I absolutely feel like you did, because of the tone of your voice is that.
My tone of voice. Okay, well.
Yeah, and I have
Statement up here was to point out who Jesse Defoe was. Jesse Defoe and Radiant deceived us.
I absolutely agree with you. I didn't know that, by the way. Thank you for bringing the information forward. I don't know who, I didn't know that.
That's, and now I, you know, that's where I linked the name to, because I know her name's been brought up, because she was, wasn't she up at the meeting in Sheridan? I think it was the first time people were introduced to her. So it kind of goes back to that. So she's a registered lobbyist.
Yes.
Normally their job is to influence legislators.
Correct.
Be in the interim committee meetings and the committee meetings. And again, that's a private company's right to hire a lobbyist. And again,
Correct.
Stop Radiant could hire a lobbyist too, to lobby our legislators to enact laws against, you know, the development, because it's not just Radiant coming to Wyoming. I hope people understand there is
I'm
a
aware.
big, it's called a nuclear renaissance from the Trump administration.
Mhm.
So be aware what's coming. It's not just Radiant.
Yes.
So that's where you need to be working on is the legislators.
Yeah.
We're-
Mrs. Newquist, I don't want there to be bad blood. I just want you to understand that what we're trying to do our best. That's all I'm trying to say, is that we are literally trying to do our best and work our way through the situation just like everyone else is. And if we're not perfect, and fine, we're not perfect, point it out. That's great. But I'm not trying to do anything untoward. Neither is this council. We're just imperfect men. And so maybe a little bit of grace with us as we're trying to work through this too. Okay. And we're just men trying to work through it. So that's all I'm asking. And that's all I'm saying. And so I really thank you for your comments. And I really appreciate the information about Jessie Defoe, because I've met her and I met her in the Radiant meetings, and I didn't, you know, I just thought she was Visit Casper or someone like that. She didn't really introduce herself as a lobbyist for any group. So
Yeah, and I didn't know she was a registered lobbyist.
I didn't know that either. So it's good information to have. And I appreciate the fact that we're finding out these things. So keep digging.
Because it's a big difference between a paid lobbyist than just the idea that maybe she's a citizen that has a passion for it. Big difference.
And I opposed the meat processing plant because that's within town limits. We were asked about it. I gave my opinion on it. This is something that is happening that's much bigger than all of us. And right now, they can't even legally build it. So I'm in the gathering phase of information and everything. I watched the town hall that they did, that your husband spoke at and everything. And I'm trying to gather information just like everybody else is. So until I know whether they can even build here or not, like, I'm trying to stay as not necessarily neutral as possible, but I don't want the waste stored here. I don't mind the manufacturing, but I'm waiting to see what happens with legislation and if they even are allowed. If they can't pass that, if the legislation doesn't change, they're never going to build that facility.
It would be helpful if council came to some of the commissioners' meetings and made statements themselves. Why is it all on the residents? Why isn't our town council giving any kind of input?
Because I don't have as strong of feelings towards it as some of the residents do at this time yet. Because, yeah, I don't want the waste stored in my backyard, but that's not even a possibility right now when their prototype hasn't been tested. Legislation won't allow them to even bring the spent fuel here to be stored. As of today, there's no chance it'll even happen. So I'm not going to go out and publicly state a bunch of things because as of right now, it can't even happen. So if tomorrow all those things changed, then I'm going to have an opinion.
Thank you.
I will say one, council not signing and sending a letter in
That said something.
is massive.
It is.
It speaks almost as much as us going there and saying something. It probably speaks more.
I think we're the only entity.
Yeah.
We are, and we have a huge target on us because of that for future grants and whatnot. So
It goes beyond grants too. They, like I said, they have a long memory, but the one thing I did want to say is, you know, it's with Radiant, it's neither, I'm neither for nor against. I'm gathering information. I think it'll be a good thing for the community, but at the same time, like, I have misgivings about the storage of nuclear waste so close to town. You know, I am listening to the residents and their concerns. And so it's a really mixed bag right now because I've talked to dozens of experts and dozens of people, and some are for it and some are against it. And the experts are saying, hey, this is safe, but then people are coming out and saying, well, we don't feel that it's safe. And so it's a lot to take in.
My opinion is what's gonna happen is they are going to get one or multiple disposal sites. I mean, if they are, you know, it's not illegal for them to manufacture the units. It is illegal for them to bring that stuff back in here. But even if they're okayed next year with their prototype, we're almost 10 years out before their first nuclear waste. I'll be shocked if we don't have a place open in the next 2 to 4 years.
Well, I'm not gonna be on the back end of it. I'm gonna be on the forefront. That's just where I'll be.
And like I say, there's more coming. A lot of them. You're gonna be busy. There's 100 companies out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other petitions or public comment?
That kind of just destroyed everything I was gonna talk about, but that's all right, because I know about the back trucks. They are excellent pieces of equipment until it comes time to maintenance.
That's about everything.
Extremely expensive. And the only place that can work on them is down in Denver.
You're talking about the vac part?
Everything on those trucks, the wiring, especially the vacuum. When that blower goes, oh man, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars for that alone.
You know what the life is on one of them, the blowers, or?
If they're serviced constantly with new oil and filters all the time, for the use you guys are gonna probably be using it for, if it's not used, because you don't know what you're getting, rough guesstimate, at least 3 or 4 years, maybe a little longer.
So your opinion, leave the risk on the
I would, as a taxpayer, but you know, I know the town needs equipment, and honestly, yeah, I mean, it's a good deal because you can use them for a lot of things. Other than just, like he says, with the plumbing and everything else, they are fantastic tools, but they are extremely expensive in maintenance.
Interesting.
And like I say, the only place that really knows how to work on them real well and has the parts and the equipment to work on them properly is in Denver. And that's.
Do you know what Casper does? What does Casper send theirs down there, you know?
Yep, T-Rex sends all of it down to Denver. They have to. They'll get parts for them up here.
Interesting.
So,
I appreciate that information.
yeah, no, I mean, that's part of being in this community.
Right.
You know, I mean, I know we're all at each other's throats a little bit, but at the end of the day, we're not each other's enemy.
I agree.
So,
So you're saying 3 to 4, I'm sorry, is that all you had to say? Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, we're good. Yeah, and kudos to our fire chief. Thank you, sir. You're doing a hell of a job. Sorry for the French, but yeah.
You're good, man. Okay, so are you saying 3 to 4 years on a brand new unit?
No, on a used one, that's give or take, because you don't know
Right,
how much trash, rocks, garbage is actually at the blower.
right.
Because if the guys don't go on top and actually clean out, there's a separator on the very top. That's kind of like it's basically I guess, it's just a ball.
Right.
Whenever it gets full of water, it actually stops it, and it's supposed to stop that from going into the blower, but that doesn't always happen. Especially with rocks and things, because if the guys don't go up there and clean them out regularly.
It's like a wet and dry vac that tips over in that little plunger.
Well, yeah, but it's on the vacuum side. As soon as the fluid fills up in the tank or the garbage or whatever it's sucking up, then it stops it from getting into the blower.
So how long on a new unit? I mean, just spit.
Again, it depends on maintenance. I mean, you just,
Use.
yeah, how it's used and abused and how well the guys are taking care of it. Because honestly, if the guys aren't cleaning that trap out even on a weekly basis, it can destroy them things real fast. So just a word of the wise, they're awesome tools, but they are very expensive on maintenance.
Cool.
Our truck mounts at work are like miniature versions of that, and they are, those blowers have super tight tolerances. So they get, if you get stuff sucked up into there, so.
A rag gets in there and
And we maintenance ours after every job. So if we get 3 jobs that day, it's maintenance after every single job.
Right on.
That's all I got.
Cool, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Any other petitions or public comment?
Good evening, guys. How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Not too bad. Cheryl Fisher, in case you didn't recognize me. I have some concerns about code enforcement for the town. I've noticed quite a few yards that are just, all there is weed patches. They are not a yard. And I thought there was a code against that. My husband and I were cited with a warning a couple of years ago about the corner of our lot needing cut because of the weeds. And at that point, we were trying to get our weed trimmer service so that it would run. And as soon as we got it back, we went and took the weeds out. But I know there are some other yards in my part of town anyway, that all it is a big weed patch.
The overgrowth, what is it, 6 or 8 inches?
Yeah.
These are as high as my knee, so I know it's a lot deeper.
One on McMurray and
So I'm wondering what the deal is with code enforcement on that, because I don't see them even making an effort to do anything. And there's a mower sitting in one of the yards and it's still not being productive. And as a person who takes pride in my property, I don't need my neighbor's weed seeds blowing into my yard, screwing up all the work I'm putting in. And I'm sure other people probably feel the same way. So.
Okay.
And then my second thing is the trees along the edge of McMurray have suckers growing up off the bottoms of them, and they're not being very well maintained. And I don't know who's got the responsibility for that, but I think there needs to be some attention given to some of those trees.
Talking about the ones on the side?
Side.
Okay, or along the walk path?
Yeah, along the walk path, the deciduous trees. A lot of them have a lot of suckers growing up, and I mean, it's gonna choke the original tree if we don't get them trimmed down.
Okay.
And the antelope don't like those trees for some reason, because they're not eating on them.
Right. Hold on, I'm writing that down right now.
So if we can get some
Okay.
help out of maintenance or whoever's responsible for it, it would be great, because we don't need any more,
Okay,
especially now that it's drying out.
yes, I agree.
we
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. We will take care of this.
code enforcement right now, right?
That's where we're going.
Any other petitions or public comment? Going once? Going twice? We have a new,
Not so.
not sold.
Not so, wait the last second.
Mr. Ford.
Guess I signed in here.
Yes, sir.
All right.
So she knows how to spell Ford.
God, I hope so. Ancestors probably spelled it with a J and a strong Fjord, but that is not in my family tree that I'm on. So, council, mayor, good evening, Patrick Ford, bar none. So I would say, most of my stuff's gonna be probably about Radiant tonight. I think, I tried to bullet point a couple of my ideas here, or at least, talking points that I wanted to make sure were covered. Not everybody feels comfortable up here, and I used to sit in that chair for a few years. I have quite a few people that have reached out to me on this specific topic. I don't know where you guys sit on this stuff. I don't know what conversations you all have had, whether in executive session or with Radiant, whatever. What I can tell you is I know when people asked me about the solar farm west of town, when I sat in that seat, I specifically said, I'm not a huge fan of a solar farm right next. But the reality is sometimes you deal with things that you don't like. We could find ourselves, if the landowner can't passively rent that land to a solar farm, they could easily, outside of the bounds of town, put in a feedlot. They're cattle ranchers. Do you want to be downwind of a cattle lot? Said, no. So I said, I'd rather be downwind of a solar farm any day of the week. Does it shoehorn us in? Are there negatives? Are there downsides? Yes. We don't always get everything we can. But if a solar farm went in there, it would prevent a feedlot from going in there. So I looked at it as a net positive. So I get that there's things you guys have to navigate there on all of that stuff. What I would say with, and in that particular topic, I said, would you want to be downwind of nuclear storage? That was an example that I brought up to people when they brought up the solar farm. I'd say we could be downwind of a lot worse things than a solar farm. The Radiant survey that I was lucky enough to get, I don't know, did anybody on council receive that? I think of note, there were a few things that seemed to go hand in hand with Radiant, definitely being Radiant and not wanting to acknowledge any potential detractors, any potential negatives. One of them, I noticed when I filled out the survey, strongly agree, somewhat agree, neutral, somewhat disagree, strongly disagree. And then about halfway through the survey, if you're paying attention, their order answers flipped. So was it accidental or was it intentional? I don't know. But I am certain that when they come back with a survey response that says 70% of respondents were at neutral or in favor, there's questions that when I look back through them in the context of like, are you for nuclear in general, nuclear power generation in the United States? Yeah, I just don't think we should store waste within 1,000 feet of people's homes, even if it's guaranteed safe. I don't think that's a good idea. And I think that's the major pushback that everybody has. We all live out here. I don't think any one of us could want that in our backyard. But I think they're going to dangle the carrot that if they can't have it all, then they will take their business somewhere else and threaten to take their ball and go home. We'll build it near Gillette. We'll build it, I don't know, in Tinsley, where the one state legislator lives and thinks it's a great idea. Up in the Bighorn Mountains, but it's a great idea for somebody else's backyard, but not his. What I would say is, to that point, there was also no question in there that mentioned anything about storage of waste. They were very intentional about the way it was worded to try to keep there being any potential negative responses as much as possible. So it felt very tongue in cheek or disingenuous on their part with the survey. So I don't know that I believe those 70% were in favor or neutral to it being a very accurate response. The other thing I will say is I've asked some of our county commissioners. I was rather disappointed in Dave North's response to me that don't worry about it. There's just to jump through. He bypassed every question I asked, which was, some of the important ones. How would he feel about this being in his backyard? How would he feel about living, less than a mile from where all this is being stored? He did not respond to any of that. So again, a lot of people are intentionally, I feel, dodging the hard questions. I pointed out that, the chairman of that board knew about this project and is a realtor. And then he left office at the end of December. And at the public open house here, when I talked to him about it, he said, oh, well, I think property value is going to go up. And I said, well, how would you like it in your backyard? Well, I'm dealing with a gravel pit. I said, well, you didn't answer the question. And to that, he said, well, I kind of with a grin on his face, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that I'm, not financially incentivized by this project going in, because I am the realtor that will be involved in the sale of this land. And so it feels like there's a lot of financial incentive to the folks that are super pro this, and they also don't have to live with the repercussions of it, because McMurray doesn't live out here. He wouldn't build it between his house and the country club golf course.
Well, and that was one of the reasons why with the whole advanced Casper thing, when they sent down their, it's not the word I want to use, when they sent out their letter for us to approve, and that was one of the arguments I made with both Matt Wilson and with Dave North and with Justin. Thank you. is that I was like, you know, you guys are sitting here saying that we're the sole beneficiary of this. I said, you're not the ones with the nuclear radiation. You're not the ones with the upkeep on the infrastructure. You're not the ones with the road maintenance. Sure, we're going to get some benefit out of this. You know, the town will. I mean, mainly the people that are going to get benefit out of this are the McMurrays. They're going to make a lot of money off of it. You know, fine. That doesn't bother me. You know, if I had tons of land to sell and I could develop it, that's what I would do and make lots of money off of it. I don't fault a man for that. But to say that bar none is the sole beneficiary of this is just absurd, because we're the ones taking all the responsibility for everything. We're the ones that have to be the first responders if there's a nuclear radiation leak. We're the first ones that have to evacuate if there is, you know, we're the ones that have to provide security through our police force, and we're first responders if there's any kind of whatever, a shooting or some person tries to break in. So I'm with you on that one, man. Because I've made those same arguments, and so it's.
I can recall, you know, to that point, you know, another ironic item that came up, I felt was Casper was more than happy to kind of leave us out in the cold on different grant requests and things of that sort on trying to dissolve Wardwell water. They were wishy-washy, you know. The county commission kicked that can down.
I think wishy-washy is being kind.
Got adversarial.
I think that's being kind.
And I wasn't involved on the
Diplomat.
teams, but I can remember folks that could have helped us get that across the finish line a lot sooner. Intentionally keeping their hands clean on it. And then, woe was us. We love Bar None. Bar None is actually our best friend. You know, Visit Casper would love for Bar None. You know, Casper, all of a sudden, Bar None they're real chummy with Bar None because Bar None is willing, quote unquote, to put something in their backyard that will help the entire Casper area with jobs and, you know, putting ourselves on the map. The thing, you know, Dan, to your point, you know, there are lots of other companies. Sure, there are. And I would say the scary part is this is probably the first guys to the tent, you know, the first camel to the edge of the tent to get their nose under. It is, to me, scary what every community will be facing if these guys are just rolled the red carpet, because then now we have helped them blaze and pioneer the trail for putting stuff like this all over the entire state.
Well, and the legislators I know, I've been begging them during this next budget session, defund the Wyoming Business Council. If these people want to do it, and the other thing I've been asking them to do is get ahead of if it's even possible, the Federal Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and let's start.
Yeah.
If we're going to have all these companies out here, let's have a licensed agency that only so many can come anywhere. Not 100. Let's say we offer 6 or 12 licenses.
Yeah.
Other than that, go somewhere else, because every town's going to have one in their backyard. If we hand out free money through the Wyoming Business Council and we don't have hardly any regulations to monitor these guys.
And the only other thing I would say, you know, as Radiant, you know, I've seen some of the state reps, and I know my time's up, so I'm sorry. I'm not used to this clock thing.
We've had a lot of public comment.
Quite a night, actually.
I would say when it comes to state statute getting revised, they've done a good job of the proponents of saying, we're only changing one word. It's totally innocuous. All we're doing is adding manufacturer. You know, well, there's a big difference in statute or law or county code that says, or, you know, law enforcement, they shall enforce X, Y, Z, or they may enforce. It's just one word, guys. They're only changing one word. And we all know from having revised town code and et cetera, one word makes all of the difference on a lot of that stuff. So they're adding manufacturer because these guys want to burn all this fuel remotely, bring it back. And that thing that we were at the other night, Dan, the thing I didn't even think about is their business model is more or less defunct if they don't have a place to store it that's central. Because there's no way they send a unit to the Middle East and a unit to Pennsylvania and a unit to New Mexico and 5 oil rigs in Wyoming. They don't send these things all over the world to burn fuel for 5 years and then go. Well, it's a one-time use thing now. You don't bring it back to us. We can't store it here. So just keep the container with the reactor in it. That's not a business model that's gonna work for them.
Right.
So I just,
That's probably the smoking gun and all.
yeah. So anyways, thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not to interject, but because legislation came in, I would remind the council again, the biggest thing that impacts your rights here is the change that the legislature made, which deprived municipalities of the ability to control within a mile of municipal boundaries. So if you wanted to seek to restore some control, the restoration of the statute to the way it had read just a few years ago would do that.
Okay. We can reach out to some legislators and maybe
The text is
ABC.
there.
maybe see if they'd be interested in that. Yeah.
I think, yeah, you,
Because it would be nice to have a little bit more control outside of our boundaries, other than what we currently have. So,
at least have a say, yeah.
Well, you did, actually. The old statute allowed
because it was
municipality to.
the county and the municipality, correct?
Well, the old statute actually gave a municipality a right to reject a subdivision that was within a mile of its boundaries.
Do you remember the section, the statute?
I can send it to you.
Yeah, I do. Because I think you brought it up in an email a while back, but I'm.
Yeah, the reason that they changed it is because all of the municipalities were ultimately required to go into agreements with the county where we had growth boundaries. Now that actually had already existed, but we were compelled to do it. And the thought is that all these details would be worked out beforehand, as if you could see into the future and what's actually coming. Whereas the old statute actually allowed a town to say, well, that doesn't work for us.
Oh, and back to my comment on the Wyoming Business Council, I do add a caveat to the legislators and Tom Brower, the COO of Casper. We've talked about this, to go back to the old school way of the state doling out finances to the communities and to the counties for infrastructure, instead of through a department like the Wyoming Business Council, because the Wyoming Business Council does pick winners and losers. And then if you don't go along with one of their projects, then you get punished. And that's not how government should be handling finances to deal with infrastructure and communities. And we need to get back to the old tried and true method of whether it's block granting it out or going directly to the legislature and having those monies available without repercussions, because we're not for the 6 cent. You know, we've been flat out told we didn't get grant money because we weren't for the 6 cent. I mean, that's completely wrong. So anyway, my 2 cents.
Right on. Any other petitions or public comment?
Good evening, gentlemen. Rosemary Saban, Machona County resident. If you got a minute, I just left the county commission meeting and I'd like to read please accept what I said to them directly, so I don't have to edit this, okay? On June 17th, 2025, this commission supported sending a letter to the Wyoming Minerals Committee regarding the Radiant Nuclear Utility Project. Following that, after extremely limited public comment, 3 members of this Board of County Commissioners voted to support Resolution 24-25. The submission of a business-ready application on behalf of Advanced Casper to the Wyoming Business Council for up to $25 million, directly benefiting Radiant for the utility project, including a publicly provided office on their campus. The land that Radiant intends to use for nuclear micro-reactor manufacturing and high-level radioactive waste storage, as defined by the federal government, is currently zoned urban agricultural. Industrial heavy manufacturing is not an allowable use without a zone change. Since this commission did, by a clear majority, vote in support of financially benefiting Radiant, as it was identified repeatedly throughout the resolution, any consideration to change zoning would be a major conflict of interest. A clear intent to benefit a business proposition over the legally The legal fiduciary obligation this commission has for the residents of Natrona County would unquestionably exist. A copy of the application Advanced Casper is submitting to the Wyoming Business Council was requested on June 30th, 2025 by phone at 8:50 a.m. An email was received at 10:43 a.m. denying that request and reads as follows. Hi, unfortunately, I am not able to share the grant application with you at this time. It is being reviewed by the Wyoming Business Council and is not yet a public document. Best, Chanel McCash, Advanced Casper. This email, an extreme lack of public notifications, public hearing, and public comment conflicts with the state of Wyoming Business Ready Community Grant and Loan Program rules. Chapter 1, Section 9, Subsection A. An applicant is required to inform and educate the public and business community to the greatest extent possible about the proposed economic development project, including, but not limited to, the economic development opportunity, possible funding sources, and alternative solutions, utilizing a variety of techniques and media. The applicant must make readily available to public access to the application and associated materials, exclusive of business plans or business financial information. An applicant shall actively solicit citizen input that can be submitted via writing, electronically, or in person at a public hearing. A minimum of one public hearing is required before submission of an application. For the purposes of this program, 7 days is the minimum period for notification of a hearing date. Public notice shall be published in an official medium such as local newspapers, public for a local governmental social media pages, or another venue as approved by council staff. If the project facility is to be located outside the geographical boundaries of the applicant shall hold an additional public hearing near the location of the proposed project facility. The notice shall contain a concise description of the proposed project and state that time will be set aside at the public hearing to take testimony from citizens about the project. Subsection I, to inform the public and gather information, any public hearing shall, at a minimum, A, identify the economic development opportunity or opportunities. B, explore all known possible funding sources and alternative solutions to the opportunity or opportunities. C, be advertised with a comprehensive description of the proposed project. D, solicit testimony from citizens who may feel that the proposed project might compete with an existing business. E, conduct specific outreach to any affected industry or industries and any competitors within that industry. Subsection II, an applicant must use its best efforts to notify all providers of similar services in the market area about the public hearing at least 7 days in advance of the public hearing. Subsection B, an application must be accompanied by a description of the applicant's public engagement process, written comments received by the applicant, evidence of the public hearing notification, minutes from the public hearing, and signed resolution passed by the applicant or participating agencies to a joint powers board after the public hearing is held and public comments are considered. Since this commission did not give proper public notice, proper public hearing, or allow for proper public comment before any application was submitted, I can only speculate that the Wyoming Business Council rules were bypassed intentionally to avoid conflicts with the public opposing interest in this proposal. So there you have it.
Thank you. That was a lot.
All fact. Questions? You guys understand that?
Every word of it.
What'd they say?
How'd they,
I'd like to know how you did 3 minutes at the county commission. Wait, you got 5 minutes here. Was it 3 minutes at county commission? Oh, it was 5?
Did like 5 minutes and 8 seconds, so it was pretty impressive.
did they respond at all to you?
They were stunned, to say the least. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other petitions or public comment?
Mayor, I brought this up at the meeting that Radiant held, the last one. And since we're gonna have hundreds of nuclear companies coming in, I think it would be fair for the town to think about how us residents individually can prepare for any disaster. So I don't know how that would look like. But that's something that maybe we all need to think about. I know we can depend, when I did bring it up, they were talking about, well, the town is working on it and this and that, but if something were to happen like that, individually, we would need to be prepared and how to take care of our families. So I think that's something to take, not lightly. That we would need to be prepared. So that's all I have to say.
I got a question. Oh, go ahead.
So, Sonny and I have been talking about this actually. Because they're gonna have to go through the SLIB process, just like every other, as far as I know, they'll have to go through SLIB process as everyone
That
else.
was gonna be my question. Will there be impact fees if they move forward?
So you don't mean SLIB, you mean,
Industrial side,
being council.
my apologies,
And
ISC, so.
the answer is correct. They will have to go through the ISC process.
So Sonny and I have been talking about this. One of the things that we're gonna do is, so we have our tornado warning system. And it's actually been needing to be expanded for quite a while. And so that's one of the things we're gonna be looking at is expanding our tornado warning system so that it goes all the way north of town. And that, putting in even more of the sirens, because currently they're kind of inadequate. The other one, what was the other one I said, Sonny? I'm trying to think now.
Radiation detectors.
Yes, there you go. Thank you.
Geiger.
And
we monitor.
And we monitor, and they're basically Geiger counters for the town. This is all assuming this goes through, right? And Geiger counters for the town so that, we have an early advance warning of anything that's going to happen. And then, obviously working with fire department, working with Radiant and having an evacuation plan. I mean, we've only got 3 entrances and exits into town, right? So you're pretty limited on which way you can go. I mean, but anyway, so we are working on it and we are coming up with ideas and, we are moving forward with that, just so you know.
Okay.
So I would assume if they end up going forward and then there's a process of coming up with the impact fees, I think that's for sure. The public needs to really throw out some ideas
On it.
Because, I mean, obviously we're going to be asking for some important equipment and training for our first responders. And even if we're going to go down the road of police department, there's so many areas that they're going to have to really cough up to really support this town in protecting disaster there.
I just want to make sure that residents are not left out of the conversation. And then history tells us that residents were not prepared when things happen. And they suffered for that. And so we need to know what is suggested to have on hand if something happens. And so we just need to look at that and have that conversation very frankly. Just keep the communication.
What if we could put in there, they need to purchase everybody out here a second home somewhere in the country.
You can ask for whatever you want.
For this community, we gotta.
And all sorts of things, but I mean, maybe Radiant is not the problem, but with these other 99 other businesses, nuclear,
A lot of them out
don't know and this is a great place for all of that. How do we know that this doesn't open the door to the other 99?
Right.
That's all I have.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other petitions or public comment? Going once, going twice, sold. Thank you, everyone. Mr. Clark, you have an MPO report for us, please, sir.
Yeah, short one. Had MPO meeting last Thursday before that. And so Liz Becker wants to set up a work session with us. Did she get a hold of you at all? because I was improperly I gave her your information, say, call the office. And so Mayor's like, just have her call me. So anyway, if she calls, you guys will figure out when to schedule that. I believe they're doing some price increases on the busing system. And they want our input, and sure there's other things, so. The Eagle View flights have been done, and we do have early access to those if we need. We just need to contact them about that. I don't know if Ray, do we need any, you have access to that.
Mhm.
So if we need any of that, we can get with you. I don't know why we would, but it's there. They're doing more wayfinding signs. You guys remember were you on for the wayfinding signage?
Sounds super.
You weren't here. You were here.
Oh,
So they're doing more wayfinding signs. So those are the big signs that they're putting up through town that are they all match and look the same. They guide you to like the different areas of town. So they're doing new ones. They're doing, I think, 6 new ones. And she said that they're actually going to be putting bar none on them, on some of them, like how to get out here. So some people might not like that. So, anyway, so they're putting more of those up. We have not chosen to put any of our own up because they're like $6K a piece. So we feel like if you make it to bar none, you'll know how to get through bar none. So you said we're fine on those. So they're doing more of those. The non-traffic count cameras are available. We just request, they actually set them up for us. So they set them up for us. They send it in, generate the report for us. So if there's anywhere that we need to get counts, it is non-traffic. So it's just like bikes and pedestrians. It's not vehicles. But you can, I think they have 6. Is it 6 cameras, Ray?
so
So, and they can put them up almost anywhere. So if there's anywhere we want to get counts, how often this part of the path is being used. They've used it for, like, they have kids like trekking their own trail through an area and they want to get a count of that to try to get money to put in a pathway in that area. So if we find any use for that, I know we can couple counts like that into some grants and get money for crosswalks and stuff like that.
Anything for park development?
Park development?
Yeah.
I believe. No, the one that I'm talking about is mainly for pathways and crosswalks.
Okay.
But from what I understood, I want to say it was Liz I was talking to. There's a lot of money there.
Raised crosswalks?
Yes. Lit, like whatever you want to do.
How many people cross at the mailboxes?
So we're putting the one in over here. We're probably too late for that one, but it's something to keep on our minds when we're doing more paths and doing raised crosswalks and stuff like that. We can probably get some money in there to even have them lit. You know, there's like, she looked at what we have and she's like, I don't know why you guys aren't using that.
Can I interrupt you one more time?
Yeah, please.
Can we put one up at the crosswalk of the walking path by the park, High Plains? See how many people are going across right there? Because people fly by that park and that might be a good place to put a raised crosswalk that's lit, is right there at that one.
Across Nez Perce.
Luckily, it's fairly lit at night
Yeah.
because I've driven through there and
Yep.
no, the fences that come all the way to the edge of the road, the kids just come
Yep.
cruising across. But yes, we can. I don't know who to contact if we want to do that. Do you know who to?
yeah,
Is it you?
yes.
That's right. Counter.
Okay. So, and I don't know, I believe that there's no cost for that. It's part of MPO money.
Hmm.
So there's no cost to us for that. So, and then I think the only thing that was interesting to me is the county's going through and updating their weight restrictions on some of the roads to prevent their heavy truck traffic going through there. I thought that was kind of interesting because we kind of did some similar things up here.
Yeah.
So that's about it. It's there's no president in there or chair, so I'm the vice chair running. The most clueless one in there. So anyway, that's all I had for it.
Perfect.
It's great.
Right on. Well, thanks. The bus system, did they say they were gonna get back to us on that?
She's supposed to call. Liz is gonna call
Oh, yeah, that's right. She was
unless you
gonna
want to call and set it up. But
wait for her
she
call.
did request a work session. I asked her if she could do it during a meeting and she's requested a work session.
Okay.
So I'm assuming it's more than a few minutes.
Okay.
that she wants.
What's her last name?
Becker?
Okay. Right on. All right, thank you, Councilman Clark. You good?
I'm
Any,
good.
any questions?
I interrupted him and if I'm good.
So Idaho National Labs Community Days, I got an email from Idaho National Labs. They invite local legislators out to come and view Idaho National Labs. And, so the only two that are, it's on the 15th and 16th. The only two that are available are myself and, Councilman Zabrowski. So we're going to go and travel out there and stay in a hotel and see what Idaho National Labs is all about and learn about all things nuclear. So it's a 2-day event. They're going to teach us all about storage and the research and show us what they do to certify a nuclear reactor and just about everything you can imagine. So it should come back a little bit more informed than I am right now and be able to relay some pertinent information for our current situation, which is kind of hoping what I would have happen. In case anyone's curious, we pay for our own hotels, we pay for our own fare. It's all on us. So time away from work, time away from family, and money spent. So just so everybody's curious, the town is not paying for it, and neither is Idaho National Labs. So they do pay for our meals though, because we eat with them, I guess. So other than that, that's it. So it's on us. But anyway, so yeah, that will be an interesting thing. And hopefully it is informative. I'm sure it will be. They've already got a whole thing lined up for us. And there's going to be 5 legislators or local officials from Natrona and 25 from the state that are going to be there. So anyway, just for information purposes.
And if there'll be any tough questions asked, it'll be by us. I'm sure
Yeah.
out of that entire group.
Yep. No, so I'm gonna have a lot of good questions for them because I'm interested to hear what they have to say, especially about nuclear storage and about all of the stuff surrounding it. So anyway, that covers that. 4th of July celebration. Mrs. Wharton, we're good to go? Perfect. Lineups at 11?
No, lineup says 10:30.
Lineups at 10:30. Well, that's probably good that you said that because I would have showed up at 11.
Yeah, I need to get with Jen and Honey and Justin after council meeting real quick, just to coordinate a couple things for Thursday evening to be ready for Friday.
Right on.
Sweet.
And are any of the council members going to be available?
It's Saturday morning.
Or Friday morning?
I would, sorry, I didn't even realize Friday was the 4th until someone asked me if they had the day off work Friday. I'm like, why? I'm like, sure, we'll all have it off. I'll do my best to be there.
Here.
I'm traveling.
Okay. So I guess myself and Councilman Clark are solids. We'll see about.
I'd put the Mercedes in it, but I think people would get a little upset at the smoke. So
In this community, I don't think so.
Norma,
I think they would. I think they'd be just fine with it.
I might do it.
Right on.
We'll spray for
Just
mosquitoes.
a reminder, we are doing a little flag raising ceremony.
Hmm.
We're still good.
Yes, sir.
Okay. On the 4th of July, right after the parade. So we'll head straight from the parade, straight here, and do our little flag raising, courtesy of the Civil Air Patrol, and then everybody can break from there and go and do whatever you're gonna do. So, right on. That covers that. And last thing on the agenda, I think.
Nope.
I would know we're still doing that. I would entertain a motion to approve business license number 2025-26, Truce Books Accounting Services.
Second.
Motion as second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Last thing, I would entertain a motion to adjourn our regular session and enter executive session.
Someone.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Thank you, everyone. All right, it would entertain a motion to adjourn executive session and reconvene our regular council session.
And we need to do roll call.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Cool. Cal, if you take roll call.
Peter Boyer, Mayor.
Present.
Stephen Clark, Council.
Here.
Tim Pickett, Council. Tyler Martin, excused. Dan Zabrowski, Council.
Present.
I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yeah,
Aye,
you got
everyone.
a few more papers down here.